Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now your hosts, Jackson Mummy and Megan Saya from Celebration Bar Review.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 320 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is Jackson, glad to be with you. In a few minutes, Megan's going to be joining me and we're going to be talking about what's been going on this week in the bar exam. And the news, again, is mostly out of Florida, based on some of the bizarre things that have happened this week in, Nevada, Louisiana, some other jurisdictions. We've just had a range of problems with a bar exam software provider called ILG, and it's causing chaos and havoc around the Florida exam, which is going to be given on Wednesday, August 19th. So we're going to break all that down for you in just a few minutes and let you know what's going on, at least as of airtime. Now, if this is your first time on the podcast with us, we're glad to have you here. We come to you each week about this same time to talk about all things bar exam related, and we're just delighted that you found us. We provide this podcast in two different formats, both video and audio. If you'd like to watch our video podcast, you can do that by going to celebrationbarreview.com/320. That's the episode number. And if you prefer to listen to your podcast, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, radio.com, Spotify, soon to come Amazon, and just about any place that podcasts are syndicated. Be sure to check that out and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the information that we've got. Before we jump into the details of what's been going on this week, specifically around Florida, I just want to remind all of you that we're offering a free special training webinar. It's called Now is the Best Time to Take the Bar Exam, Why You Should Ignore the Crowds and the Fear. We're offering this training program twice a week. It's an hour in length, and the last period of the training webinar, I come on to do a live Q&A to talk about what's going on around the bar. But the purpose of this training session really is to help you understand what's happened in this COVID-19 world with the bar exam and why it presents an opportunity for bar takers as they go into not just the 2020 season that we're now heading towards September and October exams, but more significantly even into the February and July of 2021 exams. We think that there's a great opportunity in the midst of all the changes happening in the bar exam, and we don't want you to miss out on any of that. So this is a free training webinar. To register, all you have to do is go to the show notes in either the video or audio version of our podcast, or go to celebrationbarreview.com/now. You can find out all the details, but I think you'll find it really worthwhile. We've been offering versions of this training since the pandemic began back in March, and we're on, I don't know what iteration we're up to now, but it's a lot. And it's been really helpful for people, and we really encourage you to check it out. If you're trying to figure out what to do for 2021 in particular, I think you're going to want to join us for that. All right, I don't want to keep you waiting. We do know that if you're a Florida bar taker, you're probably anxious to find out what's going on. For everyone else in the country, you might be thinking, this doesn't really impact me. I wouldn't be so quick to think that. The problems that Florida has experienced, along with some other jurisdictions, are potential problems for any online bar exam. And of course, the October 5th and 6th, 2020 exams will be given online, although most of those jurisdictions will be using another software provider called ExamSoft. Still, there are a lot of questions and a lot of things we just don't know about giving an online test at scale. And so I think these conversations and tracking what's going on in Florida in particular is useful for everyone. And so Megan and I wanted to break that information down. We'll also talk a little bit about California, what's happening there, a bit about reciprocity for the October 5th and 6th exams, and I think you'll find this to be a useful conversation. So let's jump into it right now. Hey everybody, we are doing something a little bit different today. In order to accommodate the start of first grade and third grade, we are recording our part of the update on the exams and doing some of your questions that you gave us during the week, and then I'll pick up some of the questions in the chat box at the end. Hi Megan, thanks for scrambling around your schedule and your kids' schedule to be with us today.
Yes, yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in. What's happening? Where are we going to start with the updates to the exams right now?
All right. So obviously the big question mark right now is the Florida bar exam. It's scheduled for next week on Wednesday, the 19th. And there is a lot that's still up in the air for that exam, unfortunately, for bar takers. So let's talk a little bit about what's been happening with other states who are using the same software, and we can talk about the state of where we are. So first, we've got, I think the most important piece that needs to be kept in mind is that there is a live trial that was supposed to happen this week. It did not happen due to problems that we'll get into, but they have rescheduled it for August 17th at 11 a.m. So if you are a Florida bar taker, you're taking it this cycle next week on the 17th, which is Monday. You're going to need to, before then, download the new software, which I am still thinking it's not available yet, but they're saying it will be. If that's correct, Jackson.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so when that comes out, they'll email you, download the new software, and then be prepared and participate in the live trial.
Yeah, the live trial is not mandatory, but we highly recommend it.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so in terms of why was the live trial that was supposed to be scheduled for this week why didn't that happen? So there's a lot going on. One thing that happened is there were reports of people downloading, and I think I'm not sure if it happened to any of our students. I feel like I've heard some chatter that people downloaded the ILG software and it caused things like laptops to overheat. Drained batteries and almost immediately. There are reports, some people filed police reports, they got hacked because it forced you to disable any antivirus software. A lot of people were reporting they were getting spam and phishing emails and things like that. And people are generally very unhappy with the security and functionality of the ILG software and how that worked.
Yeah, and Florida wasn't the only place that had a problem. We had 2 other states crash and burn around ILG this week too, didn't we?
Yeah, so Louisiana decided to just bail on using ILG completely. So they're a state exam. So like Indiana had said when there were the problems with ILG, Indiana just said, we're out, and they went to the email exam. So they did that, seemed to have gone fairly well. And then now Louisiana is doing the same thing. They switched to an email exam. So their exam is next week. It's after Florida's. I believe it's the 24th of August. And they are no longer going to be using all of that software or all the live proctoring and monitoring. And instead they're just doing, hey, we're going to email you the questions. You type them in and submit it. Basically pretending like it's a proctored in-person exam without having to do that.
And then Nevada actually held their exam this week using ILG, kind of.
Yeah. So what Nevada ended up doing was same thing. They were frustrated and concerned with the security and tech issues that ILG was experiencing. And so they decided to use the ILG software for just the boxes where you type things in and then submit. So they had no proctoring, no live proctoring, and no ID verification. Those seem to be, from a tech standpoint, the 2 main places of concern is when you have a ton of people running their software live, you've got the proctors on live watching through webcams, and then you have all the ID verification that needs to happen as well. It was causing the system to stop working. And so Nevada just decided to bypass that. And basically they were already open book. And so they said, let's just run it the same way we would run it in the actual test center. And then they didn't have any, I'm not hearing any problems coming out of Nevada in terms of running it that way, which is what we would expect, because that's the way that normally, that's what the software was designed to do. The software just wasn't designed to do these huge scale live webcam streaming events simultaneously.
We could go down a lot of rabbit holes here, but I think the important thing to keep in mind is now, what should you be doing if you're a Florida bar taker preparing to take the exam on the 19th? I'm going to offer a suggestion here, and I know you've got some thoughts as well. It seems to me, from having looked at Louisiana, Indiana, Nevada, it's pretty clear that this software is going to be very limited. And I know that you told me right before we went to tape this that a group of Florida law school deans said, hey, Florida bar examiners, what's your fallback position? Because in typical Florida bar exam style, they've said nothing about what they're going to do. We got a fairly lengthy email last night, and it's a lot of words to say very little. I think that ultimately what all this means is that there is still a very high likelihood of what will effectively be an open book exam. And therefore, my recommendation to our students is going to be study this weekend as though it will be an open book test. Prepare your mind maps, do the things that you would be doing if you had the opportunity to use your notes for the essay part of the exam or the multiple choice part of the exam. Now, if you've been doing your studying all along, if they go traditionally and it's closed book, I don't think that's a big deal. But I think you should be prepared for the possibility, and it strikes me every hour that ticks by, that this test that they're going to do on Monday, this trial run, will not work, and they will make a last-minute announcement. And in their mind, the value of a last-minute announcement is it levels the playing field. Everybody gets the notice at the same moment. So I'm telling you now, jump now. Go ahead and prepare as though it will be an open book exam. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think the key is the mind maps. I think that if it is an open book exam, you're going to want to have your mind maps. You're going to want to have that to refer to, because we've talked about it. And this is why we keep saying, hey, today we're talking about Georgia being open book, but it's really everyone should be listening. This is why, because Florida, I hope you were listening. We'll say it again when we were talking to Georgia. If you are given an open book exam, you will not have enough time to flip through all of your books and go in the outline and look and, okay, here's where they're talking about rule against perpetuities and page 324. And you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to have it on your mind map, so that you would go to your property mind map and you would know, I know it's in this section, and you go here and you see the little pieces, the little things to trigger your memory, right? That's what you want. If it's not an open book exam, we tell everyone to do mind maps because they're incredibly useful for studying. The creation of them is incredibly useful for studying, and then going over them repeatedly helps bring everything into your mind, keep it there. It's much easier, I find, to access things when you have them in that kind of a format, as opposed to, I just read an entire outline, right? So there's really no downside to creating mind maps. You should be creating mind maps if you haven't already. And Jackson, I know you spent a lot of time this week creating mind map shells for people, specifically thinking about our Georgia and Florida students.
Yeah, we put them up in your Florida course, and they're also in the Georgia course for those students. But we've created a shell for every subject, both multi-state and Florida, that could be tested on the exam. We use a piece of software called Mindmeister. We'll link to that. You can purchase for a very nominal monthly fee a subscription. And what that does is let you take our shell and edit it for yourself. So we've taken a lot of the time, labor out of this for you. But regardless of what kind of mind maps you're using, get them in hard copy. You won't be allowed, I don't think you'll be allowed digital copies. I think it'll be way too cumbersome, particularly since you're only using one screen to write on. So you want to reduce all of that to hard copy, printed out copy. So this weekend's a great time to be doing that kind of work. And we'll talk more about that with our students. But essentially, I think that is the key to making this work. Nothing has changed. Let me reiterate, nothing has changed in terms of the subjects that are going to be tested or the format that they're going to be tested in right now. Everything is still the same. You're going to get your 3 essays in the morning. You're going to have 100 multiple choice questions in the afternoon. Those 100 multiple choice questions are going to be drawn from 3 subjects. That's clear to us from the way the scoring has been presented. We believe that those will be Florida subjects, not multi-state subjects. But the essays could certainly include multi-state topics, and I think they probably will. So that's where we stand. There was a fairly lengthy email, as I said, that went out from the Florida bar examiners to applicants last night, and it indicated the specific rules about how long your internet can be out and what kind of tech support you can get and when you can use your phone to call in for tech support and so on. Bottom line to all of this is nobody really knows what's going to happen. And if Florida does this as a proctored exam using ILG, they will be by far the largest jurisdiction in the country to try it. There is no precedent. We just don't know. This is much bigger than what California did with their baby bar students. It seems like forever ago, but it was actually just a month or 2 ago. So just stay tuned. If something breaks over the weekend or on Monday, we will let you know that. I don't know. Is there anything else we need to say about Florida? I don't want to over people. There's so much detail.
I know. I think it's really, you need to keep studying. I know there's a lot of people talking about, oh, maybe they'll just scrap it. Maybe. I don't know, but there's so many other possibilities before they would get to scrapping it. So very few jurisdictions have just said we're not holding a bar. I'm thinking like Delaware. Anyway, it's a very tiny number. So I would assume there will be an exam. It may look different than it's looking right now. That is a distinct possibility that the exam is going to look different. It might be open book. It might be non-proctored. I don't know. But the worst thing that could happen is for you to get caught up in, think back to when you're in like high school and you were like, I don't know, like I heard that there's like a chance that maybe there's going to be a snowstorm or a hurricane or whatever, and there's not going to be school on Friday. So I don't think I'm going to study for that test because there's probably not going to be school. And then the hurricane veers out to the Gulf Coast or whatever, and there's school, and you're like, oh no, now I got to study. Don't be that person. Don't make that mistake. You will not hurt yourself by continuing to study. You will hurt yourself if you start slacking off thinking, I don't know if it's really going to happen. Okay. So please study. Obviously, listen to any of the emails that they send you about procedures. There's, like Jackson said, that email was really long and had procedures about changes they made to the software, changes to how the live trial is going to go, some more specificity on the instructions about how it's all going to work.
Bathroom break.
Yeah. So make sure that you're
fine. Don't take too many, and don't look around, and don't talk to yourself. Basically, that's what they're doing.
Exactly. So go ahead and follow all that advice. Do what they tell you to do, and trust that we're going to keep you updated as well with what's going on.
Yeah. So I think with that in mind, there really aren't any other jurisdictions that we want to focus on today. Is that correct?
Yeah, the only thing else that I wanted to say was I did have a couple of things about California and about Illinois. So I'll say real quick first, Illinois, they announced reciprocity, since I know we have a few Illinois students. They announced reciprocity with Connecticut, DC, Kentucky, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Ohio, Oregon, and Tennessee. So great news. Yeah, I think that's super great because that's more of the UBE style reciprocity. We're not obviously that many, but it's that style of doing it with quite a few other states. So
yeah, so if you're taking the exam in one of those other states and you pass their exam, you can wave into Illinois, which is not a bad jurisdiction to be in. So that is good news. Yeah, that's good. And
for the October 5th and 6th online exams. So that's important. All these reciprocity agreements are that one-time exam.
I think the other point to keep in mind is that we will see more reciprocity agreements between now and October 5th, I'm sure. So
right.
This is.
I know a lot of people are eagerly awaiting New York to make reciprocity statements. They have not done so still. And I know that there's some deadlines, and we share your frustration, people who are waiting and thinking, which exam am I supposed to be taking? But we will let you know as soon as those sort of things come through.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll watch for reciprocity. We don't have any update on New York admissibility. They have not expanded their exam to anyone else at this point. So we'll see what happens there. So there's also a couple things going on in California. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, so just two quick things with California. First, this was not surprising to us. I know we had talked about it, but there was a movement to try to get California's new lower passing score to be retroactive. It will not be retroactive. So that was an open question still, but we assumed it would not be retroactively applied. It will not be officially. The pass score of 1390 is only for moving forward. So from this October exam, and then moving forward to any subsequent exams. But if you got a 1390 last year, unfortunately, no good. But at least you can do it, so you can do it again. All right, and then the second thing with California is that California bar takers won't be able to log into ExamSoft to practice for another 2 to 3 weeks. So nothing's on there, but we had a student who wanted to let people know that. Thank you for, they think they talked to the California bar, which it's hard to get through. Man, it is hard to get through to those people sometimes. But the California bar rep said nothing is in the system at the moment. So don't bother logging on, trying to get into it, nothing's in there. They will let you know. We still have a while till October. I know it can feel like, oh, but Florida's about to take it. So you feel like, shouldn't I be on and practicing? And not yet, but California will be putting in past exams so that you can practice a full exam if you'd like to within the system, which I think is great. So yes,
and we assume that everybody else is going to be using ExamSoft for the October 5th and 6th exam. We're not aware of any ILG jurisdictions, but that could change. We'll see. Yeah.
And ILG has had so many issues that I think all these online exams are hoping that ExamSoft works a little bit better. But goodness, we'll see, because there are many thousands of people who will be taking it all on October 5th and 6th. Whew.
I'm going to shift for just a second. The MPRE was offered this week, and it was offered at remote testing sites around the country. A few of those were not able to give the exam because of bad weather, and they didn't reschedule. They just canceled them. And so MPRE, that's the last time until November. If you did not get your MPRE in and you needed it, the next opportunity will be in November. And I'm assuming that they will continue to offer them through the Pearson testing centers around the country. So not an online exam there. So just something to keep in mind. Let's talk for just a moment before we get to specific questions from students about weather. The tropics, the hurricane forecast in Florida is actually looking pretty good for right now. I think we're going to be okay. But bad weather can block internet. It can drop a lot of connections. And ultimately, I think if the weather is the weather, it is. And there's very little you can do about it, obviously. So my advice to everyone is don't be distracted. Be careful, do what you've got to do, but don't be lurking on the NOAA website, checking the zone of uncertainty or the cone of uncertainty. There's just nothing you can do about it. And you need to go forward if you're a Florida taker, and we're going to assume we're going to have good weather on the 19th. I think right now it looks like we're set to go there.
Yeah, thank goodness the tropical storm now has a very sharp turn back out into the Atlantic. So thank goodness, because otherwise it would have hit Florida right on Wednesday. Yes.
Perfect storm again. So anyway, that's where we are. Lots of uncertainty. I'm guessing Monday will tell us some more again, but this could be like right up till Tuesday night before the exam starts. So just stay alert if you're a Florida bar taker. Everybody else, this is good instruction about what could happen. You should be aware as well. All right. Any other?
All right. A student suggested, may I suggest you prepare a video titled How to Take an Online Remote Exam and give us some insights on what the software programs may provide tool-wise. I heard through the grapevine there may be electronic highlighting and electronic scratch paper. The big challenge to all this will be the MPT. Maybe the software will allow a split screen on top half for file and half for library and the bottom half for redaction.
Yeah, every jurisdiction right now is trying to figure that part out. When we know what the rules are, we will definitely do a discussion of performance tests. For right now, what I would suggest is that you take your performance tests online and you simply draft and take your notes in your answer and then expand your answer expand your notes into your answer. But we will have more of that. To be perfectly blunt, we're just trying to get through August 19th. Once we got Florida booked, then we'll turn our attention to these other jurisdictions, and the performance test is at the top of our list.
Yeah. The only people who've talked about it all is California. Remind me, Jackson, is it the MPT or the performance test, where you would get the 8 pages?
Yeah, you can show 8 pages of paper that are blank. You will show them to the examiners. Everywhere else, we don't know if they're going to let you use paper or not. And obviously it's different than depending if you're using paper or if you're digitally there. We don't know what ExamSoft software is going to allow, and that's what we're waiting to hear in part.
Yeah. I'm self-employed and business had been very slow since the pandemic, but now business has picked up considerably and I'm scheduled to do October 5th and 6th California bar. Since a lot of my time will be allocated to completing work for my clients now, any advice as to how to structure my studies in terms of time?
Yeah, it's the same thing we would tell anybody. You should be setting up your schedule in 7-day increments. You should set up the number of hours that you have available to study and then just do that work. if you're taking the October 5th and 6th exam, you should be at about 20 to 25 hours a week of study right now. If you're not hitting those numbers, I think that you've got to really think very seriously about what you're doing, because the same amount of subjects have to be prepared for, even though the test is shorter. And so it's not like you can do less multi-state study. It's still a multi-state, it's only 100 questions in California. That's the reality here. But I don't see a way, unless you've been studying for a very long time. I think you're at least 20 hours a week right now, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. At this time, what should I be focusing on for the Florida exam? Do I go through all the materials over again?
No, I don't think you do. I think it's the same as any exam in which at the end, what you're trying to do is focus on your weakest areas, the things that are most difficult. Pick the 2 or 3 essay topics that you have the most difficulty with and do several essays under time conditions in those topics. Look at the Florida multiple choice topics and focus on those topics specifically and narrow down your study. Don't try to do everything all over again. I got a lot of those questions today. We asked people what their biggest challenges were, and that was the biggest question we got is, should I be doing everything again? Absolutely not. Narrow down your focus, narrow down your study. And I think if you're doing that, you're going to be most effective. I appreciate you being with us, Megan. And as we said, we were going to tape this, put it out for everybody today, and then we're going to switch this off in a second, and I'm going to pick up any questions live. But thanks for being here. Have a good second day of school, and we will see you very soon, I'm sure. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, great. Have a wonderful rest of the Friday and enjoy the weekend. And good luck, Florida students, if I don't talk to you before the exam on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. That's our conversation for this week. I hope that it was helpful for you. If you're a Florida bar taker and you've got your exam coming up on Wednesday, good luck to you. We know that there's still a lot of uncertainty, obviously, about what's going to happen in terms of format and structure. So stay tuned and stay connected to us. We'll let you know as soon as we know anything if it changes from the Florida bar examiners. For everyone else, if you're taking your exams in September of 2020 or October of 2020, you're in the right place. We'll keep you informed about what's going on for your tests as well. And I just want to remind everyone that our special free training webinar, Now is the Best Time to Take the Bar Exam, is available to you just by clicking on the registration button below on the show notes in the video or the audio, or by going to celebrationbarreview.com/now. It's a great opportunity to find out the strategy that you want to be employing as we head forward in these relatively uncertain times around the bar exam. So make sure you don't miss out on that, and we will see you there. Remember that we do a live Q&A in every session, so great opportunity to get caught up and ask questions about your specific situation and jurisdiction. All right, everybody, have a great weekend and a great week. Good luck to all of you taking the Florida bar exam this week. I look forward to great results in the midst of great uncertainty, to be sure. And we'll see you all here next week, again, along the Extra Mile.
Thanks for listening and watching the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at celebrationbarreview.com.